Hello, everybody. We've got more people coming into the room. Thank you all for attending. I'm going to talk for just a minute while everybody gets into the Zoom room here, and we're going to keep admitting people from the waiting room. Thank you all for joining us today, and I hope everybody received their delicious tasting box. We are going to get started here in just a second, but I want to say thank you to our amazing cheese makers that have joined us today, and remind everybody it's our job to do what we can to support our great American artisan cheese makers. So let's continue to buy cheese, sell cheese, talk about cheese, offer samples to everybody, and lift up our great cheese makers. If you haven't, right now is going to be a great time to go ahead and get your cheeses out. You get to taste these cheeses with the makers. And I'm going to show off. This is what I've been able to do. I don't want to drop anything. This is my tasting board. I can't wait to taste with everybody. And along with these beautiful cheeses from our cheese makers, you may have received, or you should have received, some beautiful Two's Company variety pack crackers. No matter what the occasion, Two's Company has your variety. I'm trying out little sayings here. Y'all got to go with me. Let me know if it works or not. If you have any questions or comments, let's use this chat feature. Also, you should have received a fig and almond bar from Fromage Ami, cheese's best friend. Right? Okay, that one didn't work either. Also, we've got caramelized pecans from Bella Maria. I like the song, Bella Maria, tastes like a delicious candy. This is caramelized pecans. Enjoy those. And from Salumi Italiani, we've got some beautiful salami rolls. We've got mozzarella with hard salami. Great little snacks for your next snack attack. That was pretty good. I like that one. I may use that. And then, of course, from Fresh Pack, I thought some hot and sweet peppers may go good with this cheese. As we're tasting along, try some of these cheeses with some of these pairing items. Find out what works for you, and then chat it up. Let us know at the very end what pairing worked really good for you. Awesome. Now, enough about me and my cheese, but I also need to thank our good friends at Gourmet Dash. Gourmet Dash, this is where you receive your cheese. If you need any cheese sent for holidays, gifts, or any occasion, remember Gourmet Dash. It says, explore, inspire, create at home. That was a good one, because I guess I didn't write that. I've still got more people coming. So yes, y'all are hearing me bide some time right now. Let's see, let's get into everybody right here, everybody in the meeting. We've got some beautiful cheesemakers coming in here. So we're going to be talking today, or listening today, with Sheila Flanagan from Nettle, Meadow. We've got Koch from FireFly Farms. And of course, Marieke Penterman from Marieke, Gouda. So this whole class is built around American artisan cheesemakers. All of these cheesemakers have started something, have created and started a business and created cheese that has won numerous awards throughout the years. So they're going to be able to share with you their experience on what it's like to create and build something new, especially with cheeses. And they're going to talk to us about their farms, about their animals, about their businesses in general. And then, of course, they're going to taste the cheese with us live. So without further ado, I think you've had enough of me, Nathan Aldridge, the manager of education here at the Institut du Fromage. I'm going to pass it over now to Sheila. Come on, Sheila.
Hey, folks. Thanks so much, Nathan, for such a nice introduction. And thank you all for taking time out of your busy days to listen to our stories and try our cheeses. As Nathan said, I'm Sheila Flanagan. I'm one of the owners, one of the original cheesemakers at Nettle Meadow. I say that because we've grown, and we have many folk now who are making cheeses with me and Lorraine, my partner. We started this journey back in 2005, so it's almost been we're going on 20 years here in a couple of years that we've been doing this wacky thing, making cheese. And I actually, some people may know my story, some may not. I went to college and thought I might want to be a lawyer. I spent about 7 years practicing law. I was a partner in 2 different firms, hated it to death. And now I've spent almost 3 times as long making cheese as I did as a lawyer. And boy, am I grateful for that. So that was a little bit about my beginning. And Lorraine and I started out in Oakland. We had little Nigerian dwarf goats that we milked, and we made lovely little cheeses. We didn't know much at the time. We were we had pretty basic understandings of agriculture and goats, and we just thought we made the best cheese in the world, not knowing at all that Nigerian dwarfs have the absolute highest butter fat. And of course, they were fantastic cheeses. They wasn't us at all. But anyways, as we looked for an escape, we saw this really broken down goat farm-esque place in the Southern Adirondacks that was selling for probably 2% of what other cheese companies around the country was selling for, which meant that it was in our price range. And also it was much closer to our family back on the East Coast. And so we lost our minds and bought the farm, as they say, and we started making goat cheeses. And so there were 36 goats on the farm when we first started back then in 2005. And most of them needed an immediate retirement. I think in all, there was probably 3 goats that got to stay in the production group, and all of the rest became an immediate part of Nettle Meadow's animal sanctuary, which is still going strong. And so that was really kind of an eye-opener for us, that what do you do when you have a bunch of maybe not as healthy, not as young, not as productive milking goats. And so we made a decision that first year, and it's become one of our guiding principles ever since. So we have a huge group now as we've grown. We have such a large group of sanctuary animals that the original farm where I still live has become nothing but an animal sanctuary for a bunch of retired or differently abled production goats, production sheep, and then whatever cows, donkeys, horses that the neighbors peacocks that the neighbors drop off and tie to our fence, and they find a place with us. A lady dropped off a 10-and-a-half-year-old livestock guardian dog a couple days ago, 10-and-a-half-year-old epileptic livestock guardian dog. So she is the latest. And 2 days before that, somebody dropped off 3 Nigerian dwarves. So it goes on and on and on. But anyway, so that's how we started. And we started making Koch back in those very early days. And one of our first fresh cheese ideas was this honey lavender. I think Lorraine and I and a couple of very good friends from California had a few too many glasses of white wine and thought honey lavender would just be a fabulous idea. We started working with it, which we do with, I think that's another one of our guiding principles. We live up here in the Southern Adirondacks where there's lots of snow and ice 6 months of the year, and there's nothing to do but hang out with our friends and comrades in the cheese plant. And we come up with crazy ideas and new recipes every year. So we always keep people guessing about what the latest and greatest Nettle Meadow flavor is going to be. And the first year it was honey lavender, and it's really stuck around. It's become one of our best known cheeses.
And our top selling chef.
Our top selling
Goat
fresh
cheese.
cheese. So we can start with tasting that, because what usually happens is I start talking about the farm and the animals, and I forget to talk about the cheese. So let's do that before I forget to talk about cheese at all. So this is the honey lavender. It's the whole concept. My point of making this cheese was because a lot of people that I've known over the years, and a lot of people in the region where we live here, have this sense of goat cheese, and their face gets all screwed up and they say, ooh, goat cheese, I don't like goat cheese. And so we made this because we wanted to show how fresh the milk is that we use. We always use milk within 1 day of milking. And you really get that sense of fresh flavors, not having an opportunity for bacterias and strong flavors to build up. And so with the honey lavender, it has to be a very light flavored cheese, very light flavored milk, so that you can get a good sense of both the lavender tea that we make every day from dried lavender flowers, very natural process of, and then from local honey that we get from just down the road in Greenwich. So hopefully after all that, it does taste fresh and you can taste the lavender. So that's kind of the concept behind the cheese, is that the goat's milk and the goat cheese is light enough and clean tasting enough that you can make a delightful summer spring flavored cheese like honey lavender and really taste the balance of all the flavors. And still, I think honey lavender does, at least it does that for me. And I hope that each of you in your offices and your companies are able to get that flavor as well. So that's the first cheese, and it's definitely the lighter flavored of the two. It's won a couple of awards. It was a Silver Soapy winner, I think, back in 2007 or 2008 at the with the Special Food Institute and the Fancy Food Show. And then there's this other cheese that we make, and again, like I said, we get bored, and so we probably make 40 or 50 cheeses, but our best known cheese by far is certainly the Koch. The Koch was has won so many great awards. My latest and one of my most favorite awards was this year at the World Cheese Championships. It was named one of the top 20 cheeses in the world, which really blew my mind because I was able to go to the award ceremony with these amazing people from all of these his families of 16 or 17 generations of making just the most dynamic and just historic cheeses from multiple generations in Europe. And then we had this little teeny tiny Koch on the table next to all of these amazing Gruyères and all of these other cheeses. So it was definitely a trip for me. And so Koch is goat's milk again with cow cream, and primarily Jersey cow cream from whenever we can get it.
This.
It's a triple creme. It is best served after sitting out for an hour or two, so that you can get that real butter fat sense of it, that glossiness that hopefully the camera can pick up on here. But it's certainly not a diet cheese. It's a lovely cheese. It's fantastic with Cabernets. It's fantastic with champagnes.
Local honey
And
champagne, my favorite pairing.
Yes. And I always describe it to people as, because people always come in and they say, ooh, is that a brie? Is that a brie? And I said, well, it's its own cheese. It's its own thing. It's not a brie, but if brie is what it's kind of like a buttery brie with a goat kick. You get a lot of mushroom with this cheese. Over the years, we've aged it in this fine stone cellar that is found in the farm's basement. And it was I remember coming across a newspaper article from the 1890s where they were talking about this amazing stone cellar that they were putting in this particular barn. And it was going to be fantastic because it was going to stay cool for butter in the summertime and yet stay warm enough that butter would not freeze in the wintertime. And so 110, 20 years later, we were able to turn this amazing cellar that they built back then into this great mushroomy, earthy butter cheese cave for our cheeses. And so when we decided to expand a few years ago, and we looked at properties only within the same county, with only 20 to 30 miles away from the original farm, and they all had to have the exact same sort of stone cellar basement. And that's how we kind of came upon this place, which is in the surroundings where Renata, I don't think I introduced Renata here at the beginning. You should all know Renata. Renata is our national sales manager, and she is extremely knowledgeable about all things Nettle Meadow. And I think at this stage, she probably waxes even more poetic than I do about some of our background and some of our principles. She's a fun person to talk to and is always there to answer any questions you have about our cheeses. So anyways, this is Renata. And she also helps me with my vocabulary, because when I talk in front of lots and lots of people, there's usually vocabulary deficits. Yes.
She's doing really great today, so I'm giving her a thumbs up, everybody.
I'm used to hanging out, in the cheese cave or in the cheese plant, and not used to talking to lots of people. So anyways, the Koch has been really a shining star for us for almost 20 years now, and
Different side.
still as proud of it now as I was back then. There's been a couple of changes over the years. In fact, I think I might be a little bit more proud of it now than I was in the beginning. When we first started, we only had the one size, and this was really a great restaurant size cheese.
One pound.
When we went into the first big recession back in 2008, we developed the Koch button, which allowed people to buy a smaller size Koch on a little bit more of a budget. And then when we had kind of further financial declines in the cheese markets, we created the Koch Mini so that people could get just this exact weight, throw it in your purse size of cheese, so that Koch was accessible to more people around the country. And so that was certainly one of the big changes over the years, as we've been adapting and trying to create sizes so that more people could try Koch. And then the other thing that we've done over the last 5 or 6 years is we've created the cheese so that so that you could get it in a all vegetarian style. And we've been trying to, we tried really from the beginning to move away from veal rennets, because our entire farm and all of our principals, we have dozens of little boy goats that really had nowhere else to go, because we don't believe in culling, and we try to find a good place for everyone. As we grew bigger, we worked with several zoos and other local organizations to find placements for all of our little boy goats as things went along. And so as the years progressed, we realized that we had to also move away from all things veal rennet. And so we have found vegetarian solutions for all of our cheeses, whether it's the Koch, for which we use a microbial rennet, or it's the Chevs, which also use a microbial rennet, or some of our other semi-aged cheeses like the Simply Sheep and the Nettle Peaks, which we use a thistle rennet for. So we really do what we can to work with only vegetarian options. And in our local area here in northern New York and central New York, we actually have some vegan groups that buy our cheese in the Albany area, which I always feel is a really fantastic
From an animal care, animal husbandry perspective, which I think is amazing.
So I know that I wanted to make sure that we covered these cheeses, and certainly we have a whole catalog of multiple cheeses that while these are probably two of our best known, there are dozens that we have, and there are many that GFI sells. I've seen Three Sisters and Truffle Koch, which is a fantastic 4th quarter cheese. It's a Koch with a little layer of truffle sauce down the middle of it. pricey, but boy, that is a fantastic cheese for the fourth quarter.
A holiday.
During holiday times. Adirondack, which is another award winner, big award winner for us, which is a all cow's milk, all Jersey cow's milk, triple creme, which is infused with New York State Applejack brandy. That's a crazy good cheese, especially for fourth quarter. And all of these are available through GFI. GFI also has several of our other chefs like mixed herb chev, garlic and olive oil chev, fig and honey fromage frais,
And spice. for the
plain
holidays.
chev, yep, pumpkin spice for the holidays. So there are crazy, way too many options with our cheese. And again, that is not because we're big, but it is because we are bored in the wintertime and have nothing better to do but experiment with cheese.
I think she should just say they're creative,
We're
but then
creative,
again,
yes.
you know,
We're creative and we're afraid of skiing and ice skating because we hurt ourselves. So, so as we've grown from those 36, which were really just 3 productive goats back in 2005, we started finding more animals. We really leaned towards mixed breed goats because we live in such a
challenging environment.
challenging is a good vocabulary. She's here for vocabulary. Challenging environment, which is fairly warm in the summertime, but so desperately cold in the wintertime. And so we had mixed boar goats, mixed alpines, mixed Nubians, a little bit of everything. And we just kept growing our herd. We had under 100 acres. So as we grew and we brought in East Frisian sheep and some Jersey cows, we realized that we needed to either buy more property, expand pasture, or start working with others. And then so in the last 10 years, we have partnered with a large group of farm families, really small, basic, you know, back to the 1950s style milking practices, where, you know, animals are, you know, an important part of their families. And a lot of these families had lost their milk contracts with these huge corporations. And we were able to kind of jump in there and say, here, we'll lease you these, you know, 50 goats for next to nothing. And you just need to take really good care of them till they retire. And sell us back the milk at premium prices. And so we did that with a few families. They thought it was a great deal, told their neighbors who were losing contracts with other large corporations. And over the years, I think we have 14 or 15 farm families that we work with now in our area. And it was amazing during COVID, because I think at that time we had 14 farm families and about 25 employee families that have been part of our family. And when COVID hit and cheese sales just went completely away, we were able to kind of string together PPPs and EIDLs and open up our retail shop here in Lake Luzerne, and keep things going so that we could keep all 14 of those farm families going and our own families going and fed. It really felt like quite a heroic task, but we did all make it through it. And
we're stronger for it.
we're stronger for it. We have we're selling even more cheese than we were back then. I think that people have recognized that we have some great American cheeses here. Not just us, but all of the cheeses here
In the
today,
United
and
States,
other great cheeses around the US that are available, that don't, you know, go bad on you know, shipping carriers, and that, you know, have you know, offer some economy, but definitely a lot of value and just availability.
Supporting your community.
And good stories. And so, you know, I encourage everyone to think about us American farmers and American cheesemakers when you're making your fourth quarter decisions and your 2023 decisions, because we do make good cheese. And I know that the other two farms that we're here talking with today make fantastic cheese, and we offer some great options. So anyways, as we've grown, we still have our farm, but it's all sanctuary now, and I'm very proud of that. We still have our aging caves at that original farm, but we have much bigger aging caves here using the same stones. I was so thrilled that we did so well at the Good Food Awards and the World Cheese Championships and ACS and other places this year.
They're all out of our new caves.
Because they're all out of our new caves. And so it's just, I was very anxious for a couple of years as we built this out. Would it really taste as good? Would it taste the same? Would people notice? And so I think we've made a good transition here. We're able to make a little bit more cheese, like 4 times more cheese here than we could there.
Everybody has elbow room. Not everyone is
Yes.
on top of each other, which make cheese makers and cheese staff happy, which is
Yeah.
good.
So, I think that, we are still smallish, but we are growing, and we are, still making great cheese. We really appreciate the opportunities that distributors like GFI afford us. When Lorraine and I started, I was driving around with, coolers in the back of my Honda Element, delivering cheese to places like, the Artisanal Cheese Center and Murray's in New York City. And those were long, lovely drives where I could listen to whatever, book on tape was available at that time with my shepherd. I actually wish I had that kind of time now to drive for a whole day, but we learned quickly that we had to focus, and our focus is really on our cheese making and the partnerships that we have with great distributors, partnerships that we have with these great farm families. And then our focus, of course, is on those sanctuary animals as well that we maintain and
Sheila,
keep growing.
We've got a question from the audience.
Okay.
You're really putting it on about what a wonderful farm it is. We've got a question. Can anyone visit the farm?
Absolutely. So we really kind of want people to just check us out any day. So our schedule is we are open from 10 to 4, as long as they're on every 7 days a week. And Lorraine, my partner, still gives a wonderful farm tour at noon on Saturdays. But the rest of the week from 10 to 4, anybody can show up. There's a lovely map that tells you about all the different animals. You can do a self-guided tour at any time. There's usually a couple of veterinary assistants, farm hands available at any time if you have questions. But you can visit absolutely any day, as long as there isn't dangerous ice, which usually means January, and you probably wouldn't want to visit in January anyways.
I was going to say, and that's the farm side. Now that we have this location at Lake Luzerne, you can actually come in, you can see cheese being made. There's a viewing room that we repurposed these old 150-year-old windows, which is pretty cool. A lot of repurposing in this old building. And so you can see cheese being made, you can shop the store, you can grab a local craft beer or artisanal wine and have a great cheese board or whatever. So
and that reminds me, I was supposed to share my screen and show you some of our new plant. And so
those are shots of the creamery.
That's our new creamery. And these are our youngest goats. So what happens is those farm families, if they have someone like in the very front of this picture, you can see Knuckles, and she's got a kind of a weird foot that is completely healed now. But in this picture, she was still having some trouble. So we not only take on the retired, but the undersized and the differently abled also come back to the farm. So these were 5 that needed some extra care. These were 2 llamas that we took on last year with some of our retired sheep in the background. This is one of those old windows that Renata was just telling you about, looking into our cheese plant. This was
Is Henry or Harriet?
That's Harriet the coon. Yeah. And then you can see some of the retired goats in the background. And I think they're calling her names. Such mean girls. That's Lorraine and 3 of the boys that we had taken on at the beginning of the pandemic. One of our great 250-year-old creameries had gone out of business, and we took on a lot of their youngsters and a lot of their boy goats to give them a place to live. These are our mini donkeys, which were some of those animals that were just tied to our fence one morning when we woke up. That's Lily the pig. And that's our new tavern. Like Renata was saying, we have this new model where you can come try our cheeses. Our restaurant includes a whole cheese menu. We have a retail location here, and then 30 minutes up the road is the farm that anybody can visit at any time.
So it's definitely a destination, and a lot of people have made it that. And yeah, everyone and all are welcome.
I think we all need to go. I'm gonna make a trip. I want to come visit. I remember I probably received some cheese from you back in my old Murray's days in New York.
Probably.
I remember a lot of small makers at that time coming in themselves. We do have another question before we move on to Mike. I thought this was a really good question. This is from Emily. For those of us in retail, any suggestions for the end user on serving the lavender fromage blanc? What are some good tips for our cheesemongers out there?
Sure. So
Vanillas.
my favorite thing is we used to serve them on a Nilla wafer, and this is a Nilla wafer, I do admit. I've got this great baker that works here with us, and she makes a Koch cookie that looks like a Nilla wafer. So we now serve it on a Koch cookie. So it's really cheesy, but I always add a raspberry to the top. And I think that the raspberry just really accents the flavor of the lavender tea and just makes the whole thing, just adds that acidity that I feel like it needs. So I suggest that. I also have
great filling for a cake. It's great on just vanilla pound cake as a dessert with a drizzle of something.
We serve it in a cannoli here as well. Sometimes we do. We have a dandelion rhubarb. We switch back and forth between our dandelion and rhubarb chev and our honey lavender as a cannoli filling. And I also make a cheesecake with it, and it makes a fantastic cheesecake. A little expensive, but it's worth it. So those are my best suggestions. And always
awesome.
Always with a nice glass of champagne or a Pinot Grigio. Even at 9 a.m. it's really good.
I love it. Thank you so much. I want to tell you before we move, we got a couple of good notes here. Everybody loved the idea, number one, purse cheese. I think they're going to walk away thinking calling cheese purse cheese now. Nice little thing. And then George said the sample that was shipped is in perfect place. It's so gooey. I love it. Great timing by the logistics team. So like this is also something the cheesemakers worked out knowing this was going to get tasted. So I just want to let you know your cheese is beautiful. Thank you, Sheila, very much. And thank you all. Let's all go visit.
Thank you. Yeah, please come. Please come anytime.
All right. Now we're going to move up, and I am going to introduce to you, after I give him a pen here to give him the big screen, Michael Koch here with FireFly Farms. Mike, take it away.
Hi, Nathan. Thanks so much for having us here. I'm super honored to be among these wonderful cheesemakers and speak to so many folks. So FireFly Farms is in the mountains of Western Maryland, and I'm gonna share my screen and give you a little quick geography. So this is Garrett County, Maryland, which is way back in the west part of the state. And Accident, this little town here off of 219, is where our creamery is. Yes, Accident is a real place. And Pablo and I, my husband and partner, co-founded FireFly on our farm in Biddinger, which is 11 miles away over Accident Biddinger Road, and our farm abuts Savage River State forest right there. So I'm going to zoom out and just show you, this is where we were. And so it's a lot more to do with West Virginia and southwestern Pennsylvania than it is with what most people think about Maryland. So that'll give you a little bit of a location for us. We started making cheese here in the mountains of Western Maryland 20 years ago. The batch of Mountaintop that you guys got was first sold to Chef Jeff's restaurant on August the 3rd of 2002. And the Black and Blue, which came along a little later, and I got to turn off my background so you can see the farmhouse and the cheeses when I hold them up. Otherwise, they make them disappear. So the Black and Blue came along a little later when we had the ability to age cheese. And its first sale was September the 5th of 2006 to Cowgirl Creamery on F Street in Washington, D.C. Unfortunately, no longer there. But I was chatting with Sheila before the event started, and I am completely convinced that we live in parallel universes, right? I had a soul-sucking corporate career prior to cheese. Cheese was my bucolic exit strategy. My husband and partner Pablo was a chef in some of the fine dining restaurants of Washington, D.C., and we bought the farm, as Sheila said, and started milking a herd of 30 Nubian goats in the last part of the last century. It was the waning months of 1999. We formed the business in 2000, and it took us 2 years to get our first creamery up and licensed. And we started making cheese in 2002. Mountaintop is one of our original cheeses. Like Sheila was, speaking about, we have many SKUs. We have about a dozen goat's milk SKUs, and have added some cow's milk products as well to help with the family farming situation, the dairy situation in our neck of the woods. But I've focused on two that are available with GFI and are our blue stars, our goat milk blue stars. I was told early on by Paula Lambert that goat milk blue was the smallest and slowest moving category. And I was like, well, I'm going to change that. So we are either happy to create or, a little bit slow at the uptake, and have two of these wonderful goat's milk blues that have done really well, all kidding aside, as the American palate for goat cheese and American understanding of less common cheese like a goat's milk blue has really expanded. So before I talk about the cheeses and start to taste them with you, I'm going to show you a little video. I'm going to share screen again, and hold on. I'm 60, so forgive me, my technology literacy is waning. But let's try it again. Sorry for there we go. Okay. So slideshow. Play from start. So I'll skip that part. This is the, and I don't know if it's going to let me play. These are some of our goats. Like Sheila, we started with a farmstead operation, and Pablo and I were really, that's not going to cooperate for me, so I'll do it this way, hopefully. Maybe not. Maybe I don't have enough bandwidth. Well, you're going to miss the beautiful video. Pablo and I were really sort of products of the sustainability movement and the food system movement. FireFly grew up in farmers markets in and around DC. And so our motivation from the beginning was to assist farmers create a living in rural America. And so, as proud as I am of the 136 awards we've won, I am probably more proud of the fact that we have created nearly 40 jobs in Appalachia, that we offer health benefits, that we allow our employees to save for their future through a 401k profit sharing plan. You know, these are the things that really make my heart sing, right? And like Sheila mentioned, we now have ceased, being a farmstead operation. We sold our herd and have focused exclusively on cheese making, and partner with nearly 15 family farms, all within a 25-mile radius of our facility. We have become popular and famous, I think, for being a goat cheese maker that makes not goaty goat cheese, for the very reasons that Sheila talked about. The milk is extremely fresh. We have our own licensed milk transport driver that does the round with our farms, brings the milk directly to FireFly, and it's processed within 24 hours. So as Sheila mentioned, a lot of the off flavors that develop as the fats in the goat milk break down either over time or as it's jostled across state lines in a milk truck for hours and hours on end, they don't occur, and the bacteria buildup doesn't occur. So we're really, really proud of that. The sustainability piece is something that's extremely important to us as well. And I'm kind of a Wendell Berry geek. It's not just environmentally sustainable, it's three-pronged sustainability. It's that, are you socially sustainable? So are you investing in your employees? Are you investing in your community? How are you making the social environment where you exist better? Yes, it's environmental, and I'm proud to say that we are one of the first American cheesemakers that has had our carbon footprint baselined, and we manage our carbon footprint down over time through investments in sustainability. We think about our waste streams. We think about the way that we are generating renewable energy to offset the energy use that goes into cheese making. We think about our water use. We think about our whey, which is one of the biggest impacts potentially from an environmental perspective, because it's such a bioactive, byproduct of cheese making that needs to be treated very carefully. And so we donate it to local farms that use it for either nutrient management on fields or as feed for pigs and other livestock who just love sweet whey. And then, of course, economically, the third leg of sustainability is economic sustainability. For a long time, I used to joke at cocktail parties that it's a dirty little secret that most American cheesemakers are hemorrhaging money. And when the ACS did a survey a couple of years ago, right before COVID, a shocking percentage of cheesemakers were either breaking even or losing money. And so we, are committed to the numbers, and I am really interested in creating relationships with other cheesemakers that talk about, well, what is your gross margin, and what do you pay for your milk, and what is your labor, and what is it as a percentage of your sales, and what are you doing to make your business more sustainable, and how can we help one another? Because lasting American businesses that manufacture food is a really important thing in our day. So the cheeses, the batch of Mountaintop that you have been sent is batch 13656. It was manufactured on June the 23rd. Mountaintop is our single most awarded cheese, including a 2021 World Cheese Award. which we're super proud of. It's a little bit temperamental. I like to call this cheese the Nadia Comaneci of my line. It if you perform correctly, it will do the quadruple backflip dismount every day. The balance of the surface ripened molds, right? You've got Penicillium roqueforti, you've got Geo, you've got Penicillium candidum, and we send it in this little mini aging room, right? Which I have mixed feelings about. It's recyclable, but it's plastic, and it protects it, and it provides a little humid environment where it continues to change. So a mountaintop at 4 weeks is completely different mountaintop at 6 weeks, then at 8 weeks, then at 12 weeks. So you've got a mountaintop that's just about 8 weeks, just a few days shy of 8 weeks. It is, I find, sort of aroma of wet hay and, sort of mustiness, umami, earthy, and the flavor, I'll let it speak for itself. The cheese does really well with bubbly fermented beverages, champagne, cider, kombucha, and it tends to want to be on its own. It's part of that Nadia Comaneci thing, wants to be the star, but we have sliced mountaintop and melted it on top of green vegetables, asparagus and broccoli, and it's amazing combination. We have of course paired it with figs and sweet fruits. It does really well with sweet, and I think the thing that surprises me about mountaintop after 20 years of eating it, I have a long relationship with this cheese, is how much I like it when it has been forgotten at the back of my vegetable crisper, and I pull it out, and it's 4 weeks after the sell-by date, and it's the pillowy sort of indentations that start to occur at 8 weeks, they've gone full, and she's just kind of collapsed on herself, and it's beautiful and strong and delicious. The black and blue we'll go on to next, and it is 100% goat's milk blue. Started in 2006. Again, the first sale was in September of that year. During COVID, we had time on our hands, as I think all cheesemakers did. And with our cheesemakers, and one in particular who has become the sort of head of my QC and does tasting panels and product optimization, we did a round of sensory evaluations on the black and blue. And at the time, we were aging it for at least 3 months and moving it into market. And it was mostly a function of space in the aging room and demand. And it was sort of flying out of the aging rooms, and we couldn't age it. Well, COVID sort of put the brakes on everything, as Sheila has mentioned, and has changed our market, as you guys know. And so we were kind of amazed and gobsmacked at the spider charts that we were doing for a 3-month black and blue, and a 4-month black and blue, and a 5-month black and blue, and a 6-month black and blue, and a 7 and an 8 and a 9. And we made the decision that we wouldn't release black and blue until it was at least 6 months old. So the one that you have is 6 months, sent to you specifically because it's sort of the new standard of identity, as it were. We try to hold it longer, have ideas of doing a reserve that is 8 to 12 months, because the textural improvement, the caramel notes that you're starting to get on the palate at 6 months really begin to develop. So it's a special cheese. Both of these cheeses are pasteurized. All of our cheeses are pasteurized. We had no choice when we started making cheese in Maryland in 2002. Maryland has since made raw milk cheese production a possibility. But at this point, it's just beyond that for us. And all of them are vegetable rennet. Ironically, Cyanaris, which is bull thistle, which is the plant from which the vegetable rennet is made, is a native plant of our region. I have beautiful bull thistle that's growing just down the driveway in front of my barn. And we also use microbial rennet, which is chemical, right? And we are very conscious when we use microbial rennet that it is not genetically modified. So I want to show you just a few. Well, we'll do this because I got these beautiful pictures. I might as well show them. And feel free to cut me off and ask questions if you have any while I play with my, there we go. We invested as well during COVID in glamour shots. So this is our glamour shot of the mountaintop. And this is probably a 4-week-old mountaintop. Glamour shot of the black and blue. These are all available if you're interested in doing marketing on your websites. A brag slide. We're pleased to have won an awful lot of recognition for the cheeses. And this slide, which I wanted to get to, right? So why FireFly? In addition to our commitment to sustainability and building a community and strengthening a mid-Atlantic food shed, we are committed to 4 simple things that make our cheese, right? Pasteurized goat's milk, bacterial starter cultures, a vegetable rennet or vegetarian rennet, and salt. And that little logo in the bottom, I'm super proud of. Last year, we got our SQF certification, which those of you in the business know is a huge deal. And last year, we scored a 93. So this year, I'm literally speaking to you on day 2 of our SQF audit, and it was successful. And we are in the 90s again. The final score is TBD, but my head of ops is texting me, and we're going to do it. We're going to do it. And like Sheila, again, parallel universes. At our creamery, we had a retail store that we opened in 2011, and the manufacturing business was busting at its seams. And so we invested in a building just a little bit south of us, 2 blocks. So our creamery is at 107 South Main Street in Accident, and our retail store moved to 309 South Main Street in Accident. So literally 2 blocks. And we renovated the space for manufacturing that the retail store vacated. And we added a 4th aging room. We added a new walk-in. We added a packaging line for our Mary Goat Round, which is, one of our biggest sellers, a packaging line for our fresh goat cheese. And really, invested in the kinds of things that people just don't want to do. That, when we had a huge order for Mary Goat Round or Spruce Reserve in the past, the cheesemakers would visibly sort of deflate as they thought of hand packaging, literally wrapping hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cheeses one at a time. So we are definitely committed to job creation, but are reducing our labor costs through automation where humans really don't add a whole lot of value, and focusing our human talent on things like food safety and sensory evaluation and cheese making with their hands in the vat. I'm going to say one more thing, and then I'm going to shut up because my half an hour is just about over. Nathan made a big deal about artisan, and I am proud to be among the artisan cheesemakers. We are too big to be small and too small to be big, and I think there's a new breed of cheesemaker like FireFly and Nettle, and I don't know as much about Marieke Gouda, but who stride that middle and have figured out how to make it work for their region and their customers and their communities. And so as we grow, we are committed to remaining artisan, which for us means we're not modifying our milk. We're never creating a cheese from frozen curd. We're committed to always supporting farmers and manufacturing cheese from fresh milk. And we're committed to keeping people in the process, right? So when you're making mountaintop from winter milk, it is completely different from making mountaintop from summer milk. And the human intelligence, the cheesemaker who's standing at the vat and looking at the curd and understanding how it needs to be manipulated before it's scooped into the beautiful Valencia molds. That's what we're about. So any questions? Let me shut up there.
That was amazing, Michael. We do have, let's see, we do have a question about diversity certification. Can you comment on anything about that? We have one question about being diversity certified.
Yes. And I don't mean to make light of this, but Pablo and I are a same-sex couple. We've been together since 1995, and we were married as soon as it was legally an option for us in 2010. And just this year, we were certified as a GLBT-owned business by the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce. So we are GLBT certified. Pablo is, he's standing in the kitchen right over there, making desserts for the cafe. Pablo is from Argentina and is a Latin American Latinx who has half of the company. So, we also tick a box for, Latinx, BIPOC, diverse ownership.
Beautiful. You got love wins. Everybody is happy about that. Giving some good comments for you. I'm going to keep pushing for questions from our attendees. These cheeses are absolutely amazing. Oh my God. I remember I was at CMI at the beginning of the year in San Francisco. That's when I walked up to you there and I was like, oh my God, these cheeses are so good. And that's when Michael and I talked about getting into an IDF. I'm glad it finally happened. And we're here. But I said we got happy about the certification and very good for retailers to hear. So awesome. This is very, very good. Do you have a favorite cheese that you make, or is that a bad question?
It's not a bad question. I used to joke, they're like children, and no parent has a favorite child until my mother convinced me that is actually false, and parents do have favorite children. So for me, it's changed over the years. For a very long time, it would be Mountaintop, and I, as I've said, have a long relationship with Mountaintop. I think right now it is Black and Blue. I go back to Black and Blue all the time. I'm a blue cheese fan. There's something about the sort of goatness of Black and Blue which separates it from other blue cheeses. It doesn't lean toward bitter. It leans toward sweet as it ages. So yeah, of the whole line right now, it's Black and Blue. Our biggest product by far is the fresh goat cheese, which is an everyday. It's every day on the table. It's constantly spread on something.
I'm falling in love with Black and Blue, and that's one thing you mentioned earlier about, like, there's not enough people making goat milk blue cheeses. But everybody that's out there listening, if you want to expand your case or, to grow your blue cheese section with something truly unique, this is a perfect way to go about it. There's a lot of blues out there, but very few goat milk blue cheeses, and this one's absolutely amazing. We do have one more question here from Kara. Carrie asked about the development of Mary Goat Round. I'd love to hear about that too.
Sure. So our three original cheeses were our fresh goat cheese, which started its life as Allegheny Chev, and we now have taken the American route and we just call it fresh goat cheese, FireFly Farms fresh goat cheese. Mary Goat Round and Mountaintop. So Mary Goat Round is like Mountaintop in consistent production for 20 years. Sheila referenced the purse cheese, which I love. We too have moved towards purse cheese. The Mary Goat Round used to be catch weight 9 to 12 ounces because they were, hand scooped, and we have moved during COVID to fixed weight 6 ounce UPC'd Mary Goat Round, which has just, exploded. Mountaintop is fixed weight. And we have available, although it's not yet set up with GFI, a pre-pack 6 ounce wedge of black and blue. So the whole market has moved in that direction. Mary Goat Round was our version of goat's milk brie, and it's a beautiful little soft ripened button of a cheese. It's single serving. Like Mountaintop, it is different at 4 weeks, then 6 weeks, then 8 weeks, then 12 weeks, which I love because we're educating American consumers about these living things that we spawn and send off into the world. It's, multiple award winning. In 2002, when we attended our first ACS conference, I'm going to shamelessly sort of promote the American Cheese Society and hope everybody is in Des Moines next year, and thank GFI for their sponsorship. Because at that first Washington, D.C. ACS conference 20 years ago, both Mary Goat and Mountaintop won. And that was the juice, that was the fuel that took FireFly into the market.
Wonderful. Beautiful. Any last questions? If not, Michael, thank you very much. That was awesome. Thank you for participating. If you guys have any questions for him as we keep going on, again, chat it up. We want to know. They want to answer questions. They're here live to communicate to you. So please reach out. All right, Michael, if you don't mind to stop share.
Oh yeah, sorry.
No, that's
I told
okay.
you I'm 60, Nathan.
All righty. I'm going to thank you so much. Now I'm going to bring to the big board Marieke Penterman here. Hey, from Marieke Gouda. I've had the pleasure of actually visiting this farm, so pretty excited and good to see you again. Oh, you're good to go.
Good. All good. Well, I'm not 60, I'm 45, and I threw even the mute and an unmute button up. But happy Wednesday, everyone. It was wonderful to hear about Sheila's and her team's story and Michael's story, because that was a little bit unknown. So I learned a lot already again today. So my name is Marieke Penterman, and I'm a cheesemaker here and at Marieke Gouda. Often when I start talking, people ask me a couple questions. First is often, where are you from? And I always say very proudly, I'm from Thorpe, Wisconsin, but apparently I've not mastered the accent yet. I'm born and raised in a tiny little country called Holland that fits about 5 times in the state of Wisconsin. And we have like 3 times the amount of people in that tiny country that fits 5 times in Wisconsin. And then the next question is, what brought you to Wisconsin? But in my experience, I feel like it's the coldest place on planet Earth. So it's not the weather. But if you love cows, then where else can you end up? I know there are states that claim that they have happy cows, and they might be, but if they have happy cows, we have extremely happy cows. So yeah, we ended up in Wisconsin because we wanted to dairy farm. We have 5 children. We do things very quickly. And after the first 2 were born, yeah, I wanted grew up in Holland and we love Gouda. Of course, that's where it's original from. And I would go to the local supermarket and I would see all these beautiful cheeses, but I couldn't find Gouda. So that was a problem. So I would ask family and friends along if they could bring me some cheese. So, but then due to restriction by the border, well, the weight limit got less. My cheese supply got less and less. So that was another problem. Another thing is I wanted to start my own business before I turned 30 and the clock was ticking. So one night I was tossing and turning and thinking about all these things. And then I heard a cow calving. And I would say that the birth of that calf was also the birth of our crazy idea of starting making cheese. So because it was crazy, because I had no idea what I was doing. I never made cheese in my whole life. And we know a lot about cows, but we had no idea how to turn this beautiful liquid of gold called milk into a bundle of joy called cheese. And I'm sorry, we have some background noises because we actually during the COVID had a little bit time to think about things also. Here in Wisconsin, unfortunately, we have farmers that had to dump milk, which we luckily were not have to do. But it's the most nutritional product in the world, in my eyes, is milk. That's why we feed babies with it. And we still are fighting hunger here. So there's still dying people from hunger every day. I'm like, I'm never gonna dump the milk. That's not gonna happen to me. And then I'm like, well, tough, Marieke, because if tomorrow somebody is not gonna pick up your milk, you will have to. So that little bit started my idea from we need to see that we make all our milk into cheese and not just 1/3 of our milk production. So that's why we have some background noises right now, because we are trying to finish up our expansion. And actually behind me, you will see part of our aging room that we just rolled in our first cheeses about 4 months ago. 4 weeks ago, 2 months ago. So we're very excited, and so that's a little bit it. But anyway, going back to my original story before we got interrupted there. When the calf was born, then I'm like, we're gonna make cheese. I had that one huge main problem, not knowing how to make cheese. And then another problem came up very quickly is that apparently here in Wisconsin, in order to start making cheese, you have to have a cheesemaker's license. So quite the bummer at that time. But now it was good, especially for me not knowing anything. So I had to go back to school. I had to go and get my license. And in the meanwhile, you had to do also a 240-hour apprenticeship with a cheesemaker. And that was with Virgil, and Virgil was really fun. And I learned a lot about cheddars and Colbys, but that's not what I wanted to do. My focus was Gouda. So I went back to Holland, worked along one day with a lady that had 10 cows, and I worked along with a farmer that had 200 cows. And it was really interesting to see how the difference between recipes were. And one thing with Gouda is that it's a water wash curd, so you drain your whey, some of your whey, and you add water to it. So that's where one Gouda cheesemaker can play with a different recipe where other Gouda cheesemakers. So you play a little bit with how much whey you take off, how much water you add to it, the temperatures, the volume, how long you wash it. Are you gonna wash it once, twice, or 3 times maybe? So everybody has a little bit their own recipe, and that's how we play with it too. And of course the cultures. So I get a little bit wrapped up in talking also. So I don't want you to hold back on the samples. So we have 3 wonderful samples today. And I would suggest to start with our young Gouda. So our cheeses are farmstead cheeses. So we use the cow's milk. That means like we have the cows right here on the farm, and the milk goes through a pipeline into our cheese fat, and it creates, this is our young Gouda. It's smooth, creamy. It's best, of course, like most cheeses on a young, yeah, I'm sorry, Lori, I should have said, let's start with the presentation, but in the meanwhile, we'll sample. This is smooth, creamy, young. We do raw milk cheeses. So our cheeses will be at the youngest available with about 2 months, 60 days. We have to hold it for 60 days. So talking about true farmstead, because that's what we are. If I look through the windows, I see my cows on that side, and over there I see the cheeses. So there are not many people that don't have the opportunity to do farmstead, but it gives us a lot of benefits. We are in control of every part. So all our cows, by the way, have names, and you can come and cuddle with it. Going back to, we have the circle complete. So we know how we treat our cows, how we milk our cows, how the quality of the milk is. There's nothing to hide. Not that other farms hide anything, but we have a quicker walk line towards that information. Our herds, like you see in the back, I call it a cow spa. So the cows walk around freely in a freestyle barn. They're not tied up. We have 4 milking pens. Half of our herd is a Holstein breed. A quarter is brown Swiss, and another quarter is like a mixture of everything. We actually have all kinds of DNA running through our herd. So sometimes when a cow calves, it really is like Christmas morning. You never know what kind of beautiful little calf you have coming out. So you see ventilators, everything. So one of the things, cows do not like heat. So what they do is when an animal produces milk, it has all this heat around them. So having them in our freestyle barn gives us the option of having shade. We have ventilators, we have a sprinkle system, we have sand bedding, we actually have automatic rotating cow brushes. So we did a tour this morning too, through the barn, and at some point I love to just stand still and say, do you hear this? That's a content cow. So we also have, our cows have a Fitbit, so that's a couple extra eyes to make sure that we don't miss anybody. We have a herd of 400 cows. Again, it's all very personal. They all have their names. We also have a Gouda ambassador program, because unfortunately we cannot keep all our animals on our farm. So we have spots for 3 cows on our program that will never leave our farm, but at the end we still have to make some money. And there's a lot of miscommunications about dairy farmers in general. Like, we love our cows, and in order to continue what we love doing, we still have to make some money at the end of the bottom line. We don't need to hit the jackpot, not at all, but we love continuing what we're doing. So let's see what's the next one. So we are again very proud about the fact that we can do raw milk right here on our farm. So the cows get milk 3 times a day, 5 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and 9 o'clock in the evening. We use at this point only the morning milking, and after the expansion, after the new cheese equipment is coming from Holland, we hope to produce all the milk into cheese. Another proud aspect of our team is that 15 years ago, when I had this crazy idea to start making, a little bit more like 16 years ago, and I had to go back to school and I had to get my cheesemaker's license. Martha, the lady in the red shirt, she came to me. She was already milking on our farm, and she kept asking, Marieke, can I come and help make cheese? I'm like, Martha, a little bit of cheese, I don't even know what I'm doing, but I don't need help, it's a little bit to keep myself busy. And Martha kept coming back asking for a job. So finally I said, okay, Martha, you're hired. So on 22 November 2006, I made my very first batch of cheese, and Martha was right there, and she has never left my side since. So very proud of her. A couple years later, after we started, she also started getting her cheesemaker's license, and her sister, on the other hand, Nettle, joined the team too. So we actually have 3 female licensed cheesemakers within our team, and there are about 1,200 licensed cheesemakers, and 60 of them are female. So we have about 5% right here in our creamery. Another aspect I just want to share, I'm a little bit nervous about sharing maybe, but if you have your cheesemaker's license for 10 years, which I have now for 15, so I've been postponing this, You can apply for the Master Cheesemaker program here in Wisconsin. It's a 3-year study. It's pretty intense, and I sent in my application. They came back last week to do a walkthrough and an interview with me. And last Friday, they called me and they accepted me into this program. So I'm going to be doing the next 3 years of intensive study. I always say, like, I'm not a scientific cheesemaker. I'm more like a musician that doesn't really know the notes. I like to feel my curd. So now I'm going back to school to learn the notes. So it's going to be an interesting 3 years. And then I probably will be the 3rd female master cheesemaker if I succeed this with success. And will be the first farmstead creamery on top of that too. Okay, so this is our aging room. This is actually our old aging room. So I would love for you guys to come visit us sometime. So and we can show you around, and I can show you our new aging room. Our old aging room was beautiful too, but a new one, we can take more advantage of the new techniques and technologies. So we have plastic sleeves in our aging room, and it will blow air over every layer. We have cheese boxes. We want to be a little bit more labor friendlier too. So with the same amount of people we can make, we can increase our production, but we can also save more on everybody's bodies. So that's very important for us too, to make sure that everybody is, well, in a good working circumstances. Another picture here you will see is our coating. So we use wooden shelf, and the wooden shelf will capture the moisture that will go through this coating. This coating is like if it dries up like a skin around the cheese, dries up like a paint, and it will let the moisture go through. And our wooden shelf, I feel like wooden shelves are very safe to use. It has been used for many generations, and with the right protocols in place, again, it's actually better, I feel, than stainless steel. If we would use stainless steel in our aging room, which are about 50-55 Fahrenheit, and then with the loss of moisture coming out of the cheeses, we really would play Russia's roulette, I feel. So the wooden boards makes it actually safer. Then you also see that we actually, after 60 days, then we can release the cheeses. But we're about average 9 months, but we also have some very old cheeses. We actually have some limited edition of our very old cheeses. So that would be about 2-3 year plus. We should go up to our next golden. Our golden cheese is developed quite a while ago as an extra addition to our Gouda line. Our golden is made with vegetable rennet, and so it makes it very suitable for vegetarians. On top of that, we have a little bit slightly different recipe, and we use cultures, combination of cultures for Gouda and Parmesan. So I always say it's a match made in heaven. So it has a little bit more of a bite earlier in the aging. I hope it's going well so far. Hope you guys like it. So the tasting menu, so I already started it. So I cannot take credit for this beautiful presentation. That fully goes to Laurie here, our sales director, and I have also Kim here, our West Coast sales rep. So on the presentation. So if I forget something, you have to pitch in, you too. Okay, so our Goudas are available in many flavors. It's just nice to play with that. But I have to say that most of our flavors already started from when I started, and I asked, I needed flavors and I wanted to try flavors, and they sent me by fax a list from Holland. And I was washing my curds, and I'm sitting there quickly drinking my coffee, going over this list, and with limited time and having issues to choose, I might have just checked them all off. So I thought it would select itself out, which did not really do. We just discontinued a couple flavors. So, but we have to pick and choose, of course, for this session. But yeah, we have wonderful, we have mustard, cheese, bacon, and with the help of GFI, they have a really, really nice selection. It's been a wonderful partnership with them. And they were one of our first distributors to have on board that believed in us as a small producer, because we were very tiny and we are still very tiny, but we feel like we're pretty mighty. And we have been going through quite some growth spurt, and that's thanks to the partnership with GFI. Your trust in us and believing in us has been quite a game changer. So thank you. One of the other flavors is our Summerfield. So it's actually one of Lori's favorite, and I have to say mine too. It has 70% of rosemary in it. I feel like melted over bread or all kinds of. Lori, what do you do with it?
I put it in my salad.
Oh, and salad. So that's a really thing too. A lot of people didn't even know that Gouda could melt, for an example. So when I came to Thorpe is about 1,600 people. And when I told them I wanted to make Gouda, my neighbor Tom, who we were teasing each other a lot, he said, "But Marieke, what is Gouda?" And so I had to explain him first what Gouda was. This is 15 years ago, and he had no idea what Gouda was. So, and then his next question, after I explained it to him, his next question was, "But are there enough Dutch people in the area that will buy it?" So, and now I can say proudly, Tom, your wife is working at our place too, telling all about Gouda. So he loves our cheese now too. And but it was just so unknown, going from 15 years ago to now, where fast food chains are even advertising with Gouda on their hamburger. It was very hard. Like we could have called it a farmstead cheese maybe, or and Gouda, depending on, not all the Goudas have, well, that's one of our biggest competition. The better Goudas are good, but sometimes there is not always so good Gouda out there. And so it's all about marketing, and we love it when people taste it, because one of our personal goals is, my personal goal is that that we become a premium household brand. And end up in everybody's refrigerator at least once. So that's my big dream, besides being on the Jimmy Fallon show someday. Okay. By the way, does anybody know Jimmy Fallon? Because I would love to be there sometime. Say hi to him for me. Anyway, so one of our things is our awards. When we started making cheese, within 4 months, we had our very first cheese, our first award with our fenugreek Gouda. Our fenugreek Gouda tastes a little bit nutty and smells like maple syrup. So, how do you call it? The
Butter pecan ice cream.
The butter pecan ice cream is how. So, one of our bigger awards, we won around 180 awards right now. At the recent ACS, we won 9 awards. We're very proud of that. In 2007, we had about a comparable amount of awards, and the ACS always has been a very a big highlight in our life. So it really has put our cheese on the map, and I'm very grateful for that. So. Another couple was in 2013, we were nominated the best cheese in the United States. So we beat everything, cheddar, Colby, you name it. And I call it always my green card cheese, because my immigration lawyer then applied for the extraordinary ability route, and we were granted, and now have a green card through the cheese. So that was a very special moment. And I always joke like, I don't have to hide in basements anymore, but I was legal. It was all fine. Another couple, we won the Wisconsin State Fair in 2011. We were the first female to win it. We were the first female outstanding farmer nomination. We won a couple in the world. One time we were 5th at the world competition, so that was pretty cool. We beat the Dutch a couple times, which I also like. I kind of like winning sometimes. So yeah, and so like we have been very fortunate. Again, we have a really good team that everybody is really right on top of things, and it really takes a team to accomplish what we're doing right now. So This is our old aging room, but you can see that all our cheeses have a unique identification code. So we can trace all our cheeses. We can do also internal, like how much weight loss. We lose about 50% of the cheeses within the first 6 months of weight moisture. But that also gives a little bit more complexer flavor to our cheeses. So, but we can trace also all our cheeses back to all our customers, which is really important for our recall plan. We are also SPF certified. We had to do that because we were outsourcing our cheeses at one point to have it cut in exact weights, because we do random weights, exact weights. We also recently launched a cheese spread, which is delicious. But we wanted to keep everything in house. So we invested in some exact weight cutting machines. And so we're very proud that we can do that right now. So we want to keep the circle as much as possible here, right here. So we can cut with the longest shelf life that our consumers can have. You see also an overview of all the different ones. Some new ones are the cranberry horseradish. Some have a very unique story behind it. So we want to put some down for inspired by. We do some with our retailers, our distributors. We like to come up with flavors because you guys are the ambassador. You guys get the feedback from the consumer, what might be trending, what people ask for. So we love talking to people that actually hear it more than we do. And we like to try different flavors. And I have to say, goats are very cute. I grew up with little goats on our farm at home, but I love our little baby calves also. So yeah, we continue building on our future, just like this little calf. Between where it starts with our Gouda cows until into the creamery, we always looking at new things, innovative ways, and all about the cow comfort. Any facets that we can think of, we love to continue on working on that. So, and then a couple of just fun stories. So in Holland, we are called cheese hats. So the reason for that is that in the earlier days, when the Dutch would go to war, they would use the wooden cheese molds that we used to put our blocks in it. We would use that as a helmet. So that's why the Dutch are called cheese hats. Are there any questions so far?
Yeah, we're about to wrap it up, everybody. Any questions? Comments? You got a lot of, we love you, Marieke. So there was a lot of that in there, so don't worry.
You're mute, Nathan, you're mute.
No.
Nathan, you're mute. Nathan, you're mute. Can you put a comment there?
That was probably the funniest thing ever said. I was really rolling into it, and I can't even say it again because I was just so hilarious. No, thanks. I'm usually the one that calls it out. No, I was just saying that in the chat, you got a lot of love. Everybody said that you're great, you're a living legend, and really enjoy your cheeses. And now that's it. Awesome. Well, thank you. If you guys have any more questions, keep them coming in.
The Holy Trinity.
Okay.
There's a question on the Holy Trinity. Chief Parlor had asked what is in it. It is the Cajun. Oh.
Okay, so we're talking about the Holy Trinity. The cheese parlor, I think, asked what's in the Holy Trinity. So we have green bell peppers, celery, and onions in our Holy Trinity, and it's delicious. And Kim, you actually can explain it way better because he has these fancy words that I cannot pronounce yet.
Well, it's a little different because it's the Cajun inspired version of the Cajun mirepoix. So that's why it's just, we don't have any carrots in this one, but yeah.
I hope everybody could hear that.
Yeah, a little Cajun seasoning, a little Cajun. Love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Marieke. And I want to say thank you to all of our other cheese makers out there that joined us today. Sheila, Michael, thank you all very much. Before I let everybody go, I want to make one little soapbox statement. We have great American cheesemakers right here, artisan cheesemakers. It's up to everybody on this call, everybody on this session to carry these cheeses, sell these cheeses, lift these cheeses up to our customers, and make sure that we support all of our wonderful cheesemakers in this nation. It's our job as cheesemongers to make sure that we're living, loving, and doing everything we can. You heard all of these great stories. These animals are treated well. The workers are treated well. The cheeses are made with love. Support our great American cheesemakers. Also, our next virtual IDF is set for October 26th. And I'm gonna let a cat out of a bag here. February next year, 27th, we're going live with an IDF in Southern California with a huge food show. So don't forget, next February, California, we're coming. We're gonna have probably 12 sessions, tastings, and we're gonna have a food show. So book it, block out the end of February because you're saving it for GFI and our great cheesemakers and producers. Other than that, if you want to watch this, go to the Institut du Fromage YouTube channel. Plenty of videos, other IDFs, and this IDF will be there too. Thank you all so much, and I hope you have a very beautiful day.